In a quiet town hall, handcuffs clicked on Emily Whitefeather's wrists as cops dragged her away, accusing the blonde mechanic of faking a SEAL's valor. "You're no hero, just a fraud!" The small-town community center erupted in chaos as veterans and locals watched their trusted neighbor hauled off like a common criminal. They arrested this simple woman for impersonating a SEAL, but what if the truth was buried deeper? Then, an admiral whispered something that shattered everything, leaving society reeling. The blonde Native American woman before them defied all expectations, her calm blue eyes holding secrets no one could imagine. If her story fades, true warriors vanish in shadows, betrayed by the system they swore to protect. Ignoring this means letting prejudice win, erasing the unsung. Watch as everyday anonymity cracks under accusation, unveiling torture, lost missions, and a government's dark plan. But when she speaks, doubt everything. Could this fraud be the real deal? A groundbreaking Native American female SEAL? Her charismatic gaze amid the humiliation hinted at suppressed power that would soon explode. Stay, or miss the whisper that changes it all. But there's more lurking in the shadows. The morning sun filtered through grimy windows of Emily Whitefeather's auto repair garage in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, illuminating oil stains and scattered tools. She emerged from beneath a 1994 Ford pickup, her blonde hair tied back in a practical ponytail, grease smudging her cheek. The feather tattoo on her forearm caught the light as she wiped her hands on a rag already darkened with years of honest work. Neighbors knew her as the quiet mechanic who never turned away a veteran in need, fixing their vehicles at cost or sometimes for nothing more than a handshake and a promise to pay when they could. Her smile came easy when helping locals, but those who looked closer noticed how her pale blue eyes never quite matched that warmth, holding depths that suggested stories untold. Through the eyes of young Marcus, her 17-year-old apprentice, Emily moved with an efficiency that seemed almost military in its precision. He watched her diagnose engine problems with the same focus a surgeon might bring to an operating room, her movements economical and purposeful. But Marcus also noticed things others missed, how Emily's hands sometimes trembled when holding certain tools, how she'd pause mid-repair when a car backfired, her whole body going rigid before she forced herself to continue. Once, he'd found her in the back office, staring at nothing, tears streaming down her face as she clutched a wrench like a lifeline. "Just tired," she'd said, but Marcus knew better. The tribal emblem etched into her toolbox, a thunderbird in flight, spoke of heritage she rarely discussed, adding another layer to the mystery of the blonde Native American woman who'd appeared in their town 3 years ago with shadows in her eyes. At the community center that doubled as a veterans training academy, Emily taught basic self-defense twice a week. Sergeant Harlan Crow watched from the doorway, his thick arms crossed over a chest adorned with fading military tattoos. The decorated but washed-up veteran sneered at her unladylike display of strength as she demonstrated a takedown technique. "Just a grease monkey playing tough," he muttered to his drinking buddies, fellow ex-soldiers who shared his view that women belonged in kitchens, not combat zones. Harlan's connections to local law enforcement from his Army days gave weight to his opinions, and he wielded that influence like a weapon against anyone who threatened his fragile sense of superiority. What the others didn't know was Harlan's deeper connection. He'd been a logistics officer on a classified operation 5 years ago, a mission that haunted him not for its danger but for his minor role in its spectacular failure. Emily deflected personal questions with the skill of someone long practiced in evasion. When asked about her past, she'd laugh and change the subject to carburetors or the weather, her charisma smoothing over the awkward moments. But Sarah Chen, the nurse who attended every class, noticed how Emily always kept her back to the wall, how she jumped when someone approached from behind, how she'd sometimes lose herself mid-sentence as if caught in another time. The prescription bottles in Emily's truck, glimpsed when she'd given Sarah a ride, told their own story: sleeping pills, anxiety medication, antidepressants. The warrior's battle hadn't ended with her service. It had followed her home. Yet one gaze lingered too long. The present blurred with memory as Emily demonstrated a complex defensive maneuver. For a split second, she wasn't in Cedar Rapids but in Afghanistan. Dust, gunfire, her team preparing for infiltration. She blinked hard, returning to the present, but Harlan had noticed the momentary lapse, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. The evening session continued with Emily's usual competence, but her hands shook slightly as she packed up her gear. That night, like most nights, she'd wake screaming, sheets soaked with sweat, fighting enemies only she could see. As the class ended and people filtered out, Harlan stepped forward, blocking Emily's path. His voice carried across the room with practiced authority, ensuring everyone would hear his accusation. "You know what I think, White Feather? I think you're a fraud. No woman, especially not some half-breed mechanic, could know moves like that without stealing them from real warriors." The room fell silent, tension crackling like electricity before a storm. Emily's expression remained calm, but her hands unconsciously shifted to a defensive position, muscle memory from years of training she couldn't acknowledge. But beneath her calm, a storm brewed, secrets that could upend everything. Harlan's accusation hung in the air like poison gas, spreading through the gathered veterans and community members. "I've seen plenty of wannabes in my time," he continued, his voice dripping with contempt as he circled Emily like a predator. "Women like you fix cars, not fight wars. These moves you're showing, you probably learned them from YouTube, playing soldier in your garage." His followers nodded, emboldened by their leader's aggression, while others shifted uncomfortably, torn between their respect for Emily's kindness and Harlan's established authority. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across the community center floor, transforming the familiar space into an arena of judgment where Emily stood accused not just of deception, but of violating some unspoken rule about who deserved to be called a warrior. Emily's response came measured and calm, her charismatic presence somehow growing stronger under pressure. "I've never claimed to be anything more than someone who wants to help," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands that only she could feel. But Harlan pressed harder, producing a tablet from his bag with theatrical flair. "Really? Then explain this. I've searched every database I can access through my connections. No Emily Whitefeather in any SEAL records, no military service history, nothing. You're either lying about your name or lying about your skills. Which is it, sweetheart?" The sexist jab landed like a slap, but Emily's expression remained neutral. "What would you do if accused like this? Drop a comment below. Your story might inspire the next twist." The crowd divided like the Red Sea, some moving to Emily's defense, while others gravitated toward Harlan's magnetic certainty. Sarah Chen spoke up boldly. "She's helped more veterans in this town than you have, Harlan. Who cares where she learned?" But Harlan's influence ran deep. "Stolen valor is a crime," he announced, pulling out his phone. "I'm calling this in. We'll see how tough you are when you're explaining yourself to real cops." Emily's jaw tightened imperceptibly. Then, sirens wailed. Back in the present, Emily's voice cut through with surprising strength. "You want proof, Sergeant Crow?" She rolled up her sleeve, revealing not just the feather tattoo, but a pattern of scars that spoke of professional interrogation. "These burns, not from fixing cars. This is electrical interrogation. And this?" Her finger traced a surgical scar. "Battlefield triage after extraction. But you wouldn't know about that, would you? You spent your deployment behind a desk while real operators did the work." The confrontation escalated when Emily offered a simple challenge. "You want to test if I'm real? Fine. Hand-to-hand, standard rules." Harlan's ego wouldn't let him back down. The impromptu match lasted less than 90 seconds. Emily moved like water, using his size against him. When she finally put him on his back, the silence was deafening. But Harlan, gasping on the floor, managed 5 words. "Assault on a decorated veteran." The police arrived within minutes. Officer Davidson, who owed his job to Harlan, didn't hesitate to accept the assault charge. As the metal clicked around her wrists, Emily caught Harlan's satisfied smirk. He leaned close as she passed, whispering, "I know exactly who you are, Whitefeather, and I know why they buried you." The words hit harder than any physical blow, but as cuffs tightened, whispers of a greater conspiracy emerged. Stay tuned for the unraveling. The interrogation room at Cedar Rapids Police Station felt like a tomb, its gray walls closing in as Emily sat across from Detectives Martinez and Thompson. The metal chair bit into her back, handcuffs still securing her wrists despite her calm demeanor. But beneath the surface, her mind raced through coping techniques learned in therapy. Breathe, count, stay present. The fluorescent light's buzz triggered memories of electrical currents, and she forced herself to focus on the detective's voice instead. "Ms. Whitefeather, Sergeant Crow has made serious allegations about impersonating military personnel," Detective Martinez said, opening Harlan's folder. Emily's response came steady. "I never claimed to be anything. I fix cars. I teach self-defense." But Thompson leaned forward aggressively. "Then explain the tactical knowledge. Explain how a mechanic knows interrogation resistance techniques." Emily made a decision that would shatter her anonymity. "Because I was special operations. I was a SEAL. Check for Operation Thunderbird, November 2019, Yemen. 3 operators killed in action. I was one of them." The detectives exchanged glances as Emily revealed her truth. So too Whitefeather, Team 4. First Native American woman to complete BUDS training, she showed her scars. Standard car battery interrogation, 7.62 round, traumatic brain injury. Ever felt betrayed by those you trusted? Share in the comments. Let's discuss justice. Detective Martinez pulled up classified databases, finding fragments that supported Emily's story. Through the one-way mirror, Harlan watched with growing agitation. He knew the truth because he'd been there. Logistics support for Operation Thunderbird, close enough to profit from betrayal. Emily spoke of the mission's failure, the ambush, 43 days of torture. Her voice cracked, describing waterboarding sessions, stress positions, psychological games that left scars no one could see. "They knew things only someone inside could have told them. Someone sold us out." She paused, lost in memory, the darkness of the cell, the sound of Morrison's screams from nearby, the moment she'd broken and given them outdated intel to make the pain stop. The shame of that moment still woke her at night. "How did you survive?" Martinez asked quietly. Emily's laugh was bitter. "JSOC extracted me, but I wasn't the same. Nightmares, panic attacks, couldn't trust anyone. The government's solution? Erase my identity, declare me dead, tell me to disappear. No support, no acknowledgement, just medication and monthly check-ins with a therapist who didn't have clearance to hear the truth." She met their gazes steadily. "Admiral Kane can verify everything. He signed my death certificate, yet the deepest secret waited in the wings. Prepare for the storm." The interrogation room door burst open as federal agents took custody. Within minutes, Emily was in a black SUV heading to a skiff in Des Moines. Harlan watched from the parking lot, his world beginning to crumble. In the underground facility, Admiral Kane waited in dress blues. "Petty Officer Whitefeather, the ghost we created." "You know why you're here," Kane said, pushing a tablet across. "Harlan Crow stirred up what we buried." Emily's voice came hard. "You mean when you buried me? When one operator's life was worth less than political convenience?" The files revealed everything. Crow's involvement in Operation Thunderbird, suspicious financial transactions, evidence of betrayal. What secret would you reveal for justice? Comment below. Your thoughts fuel the story. "He was there," Emily breathed. Kane nodded grimly. "When the investigation pointed to an inside leak, he was a suspect, but we couldn't prove it." The truth unfolded, Crow had sold them out for $2 million, then monitored survivors to ensure they stayed hidden. Kane's confession shook her. You weren't the only one hidden. Morrison survived. Jackson, too. Rodriguez is in a wheelchair in Arizona. We kept you separate because we didn't know who to trust. Emily's emotional dam burst. Do you know what it's like? Waking up screaming, taking pills just to function, jumping at car backfires, seeing a therapist who can't know why you're really broken? Her hands shook violently now, the PTSD she'd hidden for years fully visible. I can't sleep without seeing Morrison's face. Can't shower without feeling like I'm drowning. Can't trust because anyone could be another betrayer. You're not forgotten, Whitefeather. We hid you for the greater good, but the mission lives. We'll restore everything and go after everyone involved. But then the prosecutor arrived with devastating news. Without concrete evidence, we can't touch Crow. His lawyers filed injunctions. The press conference will destroy her credibility. Emily felt the walls closing in again, her breathing becoming shallow, a panic attack threatening. Even Kane seemed defeated. I'm sorry, the system failed you again. But justice was just beginning. Hold on for the final unveiling. Just as Emily prepared to accept defeat, fighting through the fog of a PTSD episode, Kane's phone buzzed with an encrypted message. The screens activated, showing faces she'd mourned. Morrison, Jackson, Rodriguez. Whitefeather? Morrison's voice cracked. They told us you were dead. The reunion shattered 5 years of isolation. Rodriguez spoke from his wheelchair with fierce determination. I've been monitoring Crow for 3 years. When I saw your arrest, I knew it was time. He held up a flash drive. Everything's here. Recorded conversations, financial records, his handlers. I built this case alone, thinking I was the only survivor. Crow sold us out, and I can prove it. The media storm Crow unleashed became their weapon. Within hours, evidence flooded every platform. Kane's team released Emily's commendation ceremony footage. Veterans created viral posts defending her. The hashtags First Native American Female SEAL and Real American Hero trended nationally. Sarah Chen organized support that drew hundreds. Crow's world imploded on live television. Reporters blindsided him with Rodriguez's evidence. His stammering denials sealed his fate. Federal agents arrested him on camera for espionage and treason. The man who'd tried to destroy Emily became the day's biggest story for all the wrong reasons. Inspired by Emily's revenge? Like if you'd fight back and comment your own justice story. Emily's identity was restored. Name, rank, benefits, 5 years of back pay. But more importantly, her team reunited at her garage. Morrison flew in immediately. Jackson drove through the night. Rodriguez's son brought him from Arizona. They embraced among the tools that had hidden warriors, each understanding the weight of survival, the cost of silence, the price of service. Admiral Kane arrived with an offer. We're forming a new unit. Your deaths make you perfect for deniable operations. Help us clean house. Emily looked at her team, all bearing their own invisible wounds, all stronger for having survived. Morrison spoke for all. When do we start? 3 months later, Emily taught at the community center with open pride. Her tribal heritage celebrated, her service honored. She'd added a new element to her classes, teaching veterans to recognize PTSD symptoms, to seek help without shame. The strongest warriors, she'd tell them, are those who fight their demons every day and keep going. As class ended, her secure phone buzzed. Package located, team assembling. She smiled, but before leaving, she gathered her students. Remember, Emily said, her voice carrying the weight of hard-won wisdom. Real strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting up every time you do. It's about asking for help when the weight gets too heavy. It's about knowing that the battles we fight in silence are just as honorable as the ones we fight in uniform. Her words rippled through the room, through the community, through social media as students shared her message. Veterans who'd hidden their struggles began seeking help. Families learned to recognize the signs. The conversation about invisible wounds grew louder, stronger, impossible to ignore. Emily walked to her truck, no longer hiding but striding with purpose. The mission against those who betrayed American operators had begun, but her greater mission, showing that wounded warriors were still warriors, continued every day. As she drove into the Iowa sunset, her reflection showed not just a mechanic or a soldier, but a survivor who'd turned pain into purpose. In the months that followed, Emily's message echoed across the country. Veteran centers reported increased attendance. Support groups multiplied. The phrase "still standing, still fighting" became a rallying cry for those battling PTSD. Emily Whitefeather had been reborn not just as an instrument of justice, but as a voice for the silently suffering. The whisper had become a roar that said, "You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are still a warrior." And somewhere in the shadows, 4 ghosts prepared to ensure no warrior would be betrayed again.